Well, hey, everybody. This is Jackson Mumey at Celebration Bar Review. We're really glad to have you with us today. We're doing another hangout with a successful bar exam student. And I say often when I'm doing these, this is one of my favorite people. But really, this time, this is my favorite person, probably in the whole world. Well, her mom. But she's the pride and joy of my life. What we've got today is my daughter, Megan, who is not just my daughter, Megan. I mean, and you can see her like over my shoulder there, a picture of her and Walt Disney. But Megan is a member of the California Bar. She is a graduate of the University of Virginia Law School, which was a much better law school, by the way, than the one I went to. And she took and passed the California Bar in her first try. And really importantly to me, while she was pregnant with our first grandchild, and then she started working of counsel to a law firm in California, and then came on board and worked with us and has taught and assisted, and she's like an awesome person. But I think beyond all the fact that I'm just a really proud dad is that Megan's had a really great experience with the bar over the years, and I thought it would be just great for you all to listen and hear what her thoughts are. So, yeah, hi, Megs.
Hi.
It's really nice to have you here, and you're really a good sport to do this. I know we're sort of getting you in between nap times and work and all the other things, but I'm glad to have you. Yeah, glad to have you in a lot of ways when I think about it. Anyway. Today is actually the first day of the bar exam. Does that bring back any memories for you?
Yeah. I mean, I think every year around this time, because I took the July bar, it's crazy to think about, all the stress of the bar and all of the chaos and all of the anxiety and thoughts and emotions and just exhaustion that those 3 days encompassed a few years back now. But yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, pretty crazy. Your situation in taking the Cal Bar was unusual in that you had gone to school in Virginia, and you actually moved back to California, right?
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
So I had never taken any California-specific courses. Obviously, at UVA Law, they don't teach you. I mean, why would they? So they didn't teach you California law, and so when I was studying for the bar, there were several subjects that I had to learn completely fresh. I didn't know a thing about them because we just weren't taught to us. And at UVA, they don't actually teach any classes that are geared towards taking any bar specifically. But certainly there was nothing about California. So yeah, it was a little bit more difficult from that perspective, that there were literally subjects that I went in just starting my studies knowing absolutely nothing about.
Yeah, but you had a pretty good teacher.
Yes. Hey, I mean, I passed, so.
Yeah, there you go. And that's the point, folks. She passed. Yeah, so was it a strange experience to be sort of holding off on your studies until after school and then kind of trying to move and relocate and study for the bar all at once?
Yeah. I mean, it was a little bit crazy because my husband and I drove out from Virginia back to California, and then had I'm sure a lot of people face this. It's the summer, so we had a wedding as soon as we came back, a really good friend, and I was in the wedding, and there's just so many other things happening. And then in the middle, just trying to start the study and at the beginning, feeling so over.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
So you were it was a little overwhelming then, right?
Yeah, just seeing all the things that you had to do and thinking how, there's no possible way that I'm going to get through all this material in time. But you do. I mean, I followed that syllabus and I made it through all the material with time to spare, honestly, to be able to go back and refresh on things that I was a little shakier with.
Yeah. So did it help you to have a plan, a study guide as you were going step by step?
Yeah, definitely. And I followed it. I mean, you have to be disciplined. And actually, I worked part-time for a law firm also while I was studying. So I think I went in 2 days a week. But still, I was going and doing that over the summer while I was studying. And they were really great about, obviously, if you need extra time, don't come in, it's okay. But so I think it was key to have structure.
Yeah. Let's back up just a little bit. You obviously grew up in the bar exam, in the bar review. What was that like as a kid being around while I was teaching and doing all that? You want to?
Yeah, I mean, I remember hearing about Janet Jeweler from the time I was very small. I didn't know what it was, but I just remembered that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I think just hearing all the terms and the words and sort of knowing a little tiny bit about law, but from a different perspective. You know, people, oh, your dad went to law school, so he's an attorney. No, he teaches, and it was kind of a fun way to see like the different side of the law than what people normally think of when they think about, you know, being a lawyer and going to law school. But yeah, so I kind of felt like I knew the lingo and I knew the basics. But obviously, wow, it's a whole nother world when you really dive in and you're the one taking the test.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when you told me when you were 11 or 12 years old that you were going to write that first essay that we called Janet Jeweler, and I was like, yeah, right. You know, but you pretty sure you could do it. So there you go. When you were at law school, obviously the big box bar reviews dominate on the law school campuses. What was your impression as you kind of watched students lining up around that and knowing that there was an alternative?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's one of those things that even when I was at UVA, I graduated in 2011, and Kaplan was just getting into it. And so really, like when I started, it was kind of like everyone still, it was like not even a question. It was like Barbary, everybody's going to go to Barbary. So, and then sort of people started to see like, oh, Kaplan's starting, maybe there, you know, there's alternatives. There was another small company that a law professor at UVA was a part of. And so I think people were just starting to get the idea that like, you don't have to do one of the huge ones, and that's okay. And you like, it's not like, I think a lot of times people feel like, oh, if I don't follow the herd, I'm going to fail, which is obviously not true. It's really depends on how you find a good fit for you and a company that fits for you and where the teaching is solid and the materials are solid, and then you put in the work and you put in the effort.
Yeah. You know, Megan has worked with us and as an editor as well. And so for those of you taking our California course, a lot of those model answers, you're looking at the person that wrote them. So don't write to me, talk to her. But was it surprising to you to see how much work and effort goes into putting together a course?
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, I feel like I could barely scratch the surface. And, you know, it's like in a year, you barely have enough time to do model answers. I mean, it's just insane. So it's really why, like, you know, for the students, when Jackson tells you, like, don't stress that you don't have to write at this level, it's because literally it's somebody's putting in hours and hours of work and effort into writing that. But yeah, I mean, just all updating the lectures and the materials, and oh my goodness, there's just so much information, which obviously the students know because you're trying to go through all of it. But yeah, it's all there. I mean, it's just so comprehensive, and there's so much effort and attention that's put into all of it to make sure that it's right and it's up to date and it's helpful and ultimately going to be useful and going to be enough information presented in a clear way.
Yeah. And when you took the bar, you weren't trying to memorize material, right? I mean, so talk a little bit about that memorization, because there are obviously people that go out and do flashcards and memorize and create mnemonics and put a lot of effort into that. What was your response to that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I literally never did flashcards. It's not necessary. Yeah, the memorization is really, for me, gosh, that would have only stressed me out and would have made me focus on, I think, the wrong things. I really felt that the practice was what got it, that understanding in my head. And that was the key, was to have the understanding and the reasoning ability. That it was like not about just memorizing something cold. It was about internalizing it and understanding the why so that you could recall it. I mean, think about that with anything in life. If you understand the reasoning behind something, it's a lot easier to remember the rule than it is if you just memorize flashcards or try to memorize flashcards, which that's impossible. I mean, it's just impossible. It's too much information in too short of a time for you to really internalize that much just by using rote memorization.
Right. And of course, as we're talking today, there are undoubtedly people at California bar sites and other bar sites around the country who are sitting outside the doorway, trying to memorize their flashcards right before they walk in, right? Sadly enough, you know, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. When you took the bar, we didn't know it, but you knew it, that you were pregnant.
Yes. Yeah.
In your first trimester, you know, and every year we have a lot of women taking the bar who are pregnant. Any special thoughts or advice for people in that situation? Was there anything about that process?
I mean, it was a little crazy. I was 11 weeks along, but thankfully wasn't, real sick or anything. So I, was lucky with that. But yeah, I think if you think it's going to be an issue, that California does have a form that you can fill out for medical issues that you're asking for special accommodations. So, obviously I don't know if they're gonna, it probably depends. You might need a note from doctor, but if you're having a hard time with it, it doesn't hurt to fill out the form and see if they can do something like seat you near the bathroom. I actually just got lucky and was in the back row. And
Yeah.
so it was perfect. I was right by
Yeah.
the door where I could get water or go to the bathroom. Yeah. And I think really just, the nice thing was, and this probably could apply to anybody who had, focus on something external, whether it's you've got kids, you've got a spouse, you've got a great vacation coming up afterwards, you've got some goals or some things that are outside of the bar, and keep that in front of you, because I think it makes it a lot easier to stay calm and to keep the bar in perspective if you have something outside of it. It cannot consume you. It cannot be your whole life for the time that you're studying and you're taking it. You have to remember that life goes on when it's over. When you walk out of that test room, it's done. You're not going to find out if you passed or not for a long time, and you have to continue on with your life. So I think that was the nice thing, was it gave me something to focus on to help me keep good perspective.
Yeah, and I thought you kept remarkably good perspective. Most students have at least one meltdown somewhere during the time. You had one little one, but at least that you shared with me. You may have had more that you didn't share, but that meltdown process, and then keeping the balance and knowing, to spend time with your family and spend time with your spouse and do some things, right? That helps you even during the study process, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's things like go to your friend's wedding that's happening while you're studying, go to a birthday party. I mean, get out and do things. You can't neglect the rest of your life. Obviously, studying, it's like a full-time job, but even when you have a full-time job or even a really demanding job, hopefully you still have a life too. And so you do need to keep that balance, I think, while you're studying. And remember that the world is not going to end, if the test doesn't go the way you wanted it to, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were moving into your new house, you were working, you were relocating across the country, all of those things going on, and you're pregnant. So it's not like your day wasn't pretty full, huh?
Yeah. I was literally, I had to have blood work every week in my first trimester, and I would literally bring my multi-state questions with me, the book, and I would sit in the waiting office of the lab and do the multiple choice questions while I was waiting. And I know that probably seems really silly, but why not? It's like, get that extra practice in, just fit the bar into your life instead of trying to make your life solely about the bar exam.
Yeah, and I think you've done a great job, and and now with two little ones, and sort of this transitional period in your life, kind of take a breath, and then we're gonna scoop you back up into the bar exam again, undoubtedly. You did have the chance to work with some of our California students, particularly some that were really struggling, some repeat bar takers. Tell me a little bit about what that experience was like, kind of flipping on to the other end, where you go from being, the student, and now you're the teacher. And of course, being the really nice employer that I am, I said, hey, Megan, why don't you take these people who are really struggling with the California bar, and give them super attention, which you did. And tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I think it's great to be able to help people through what is, for many people, one of the hardest periods in their life. If you failed before, like, this test is so fraught with anxiety, and it's just a really scary feeling. You've already tried so hard and failed, and it's really scary to put yourself out there again. And so I think, with some people, it's almost working with them. Obviously, we're doing essays and we're really like nailing down the problem areas, but we're also talking a lot about emotions and feelings and how to stay calm and stay focused and have faith in yourself. And I think ultimately, one of the people that I worked with, it was really incredible. She had failed several times and she passed, and it just was the most incredible feeling to talk to her afterwards, because I knew she could do it, and Jackson, you knew she could do it, and we just had to get her to believe that she could do it. And I had such a good feeling when she went into that last test, because she just sounded so different than when I had started working with her. And so when she, when I talked to her after and she told me she had passed, it was just so incredible to be able to celebrate that with her and know that she had done it because she had put in the work, but she had also trusted that she was capable. It was really wonderful.
Yeah, and you did an amazing job. That was a really challenging particular student of ours, but you did a great job with a lot of these students. I know that moment as a teacher, when someone tells you they passed, is a big deal. I certainly will share. I know exactly where I was when I got the phone call from you that you passed the bar. We were at a dinner in New Orleans with a whole group of friends, and my cell phone rang, and I knew it had to be you because I knew when results were coming out. And I took a deep breath and walked into another room outside, and you told me your results, and I just remember my face just lit up. And your mom looked at me, and all of our friends looked at me, and suddenly the whole room was cheering. Yeah. So what was that like when you got your results on your end? I mean, that's what was happening to me, but what was happening for you?
Oh, it just felt like such a huge relief and weight off. I remember thinking that it was really mean that California was releasing the results like right before Thanksgiving, like just before, and thinking, oh my goodness, like if you fail and then you have to go to this huge dinner with your whole extended family and tell them. And so yeah, it just felt really good to know that it was done. And I think I told my husband, we're never moving out of state because I'm never taking another bar exam again. But yeah, just knowing that I had really done my best and that it was done and I didn't have to do it again, which is a good feeling.
Yeah, you're right. That's a great feeling, and it's a really special thing, and it's special as a teacher. It's special as a student. You talked about how late California releases results, and they're one of the very last of jurisdictions. What would you suggest? A lot of people are going to watch this interview in the interim after the exam and before they get their results. Do you have any thoughts for people in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, just don't think about it. And I know that's impossible. I know it's impossible, but it's a really long time and you have to just sort of move on. Hopefully you have a job and so you can focus on that. And don't stress yourself out with the what ifs. Don't stress yourself out with the what happens if I fail. If you fail and you have a job, talk to your boss, it'll be okay. But you will cross that bridge when you get there. And if you pass, then you have just wasted all this time and mental energy worrying about something that you didn't even have to worry about. So enjoy that it's done, and enjoy that all those people studying for the next bar, that you don't have to do that right now. And just, really let it go, I think. Yeah,
I think that you did a great job of kind of segmenting and keeping your life separate. And for you, of course, the added pressure of having, your family owning the bar review and having grown up in it. It's like, there's no pressure at all on her to pass the exam, but, that was, you handled that with a great deal of grace, as you always do. So that was pretty cool. Well, do you have any other thoughts or suggestions for people who are watching, maybe some folks that are about to take the exam coming up next year? What would you tell them as they're starting the process?
I really think the most important thing is two things that I've said before. It's do the work and believe that you can pass. Those two things are the most important things, hands down. And it sounds really simple, but people always have, they have excuses for why, I don't have time to put this in. Well, I'm just going to skip this essay because it doesn't really matter. Or I don't really want to do a performance test. They're so long, to practice, whatever it is, just do the work. And then don't give excuses for why you're going to fail. Tell yourself every day that you will pass, and you need to believe it. You need to tell yourself until you believe it if you don't already. Because you're capable. You are completely capable. You have gone through law school. You've graduated. You can do this. You just need to believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, it's going to come through in your writing. So you need to trust in yourself and believe in yourself on that day, really.
Yeah,
or those days.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's some real wisdom. I know some of you who are taking the Cal Bar are thinking, "Hey, I'd much rather work with her than him." So I can understand. She's pretty spectacular. So Megan, it's really I so appreciate you doing this. I appreciate the babies taking naps and letting you do this, and we kind of grabbed and carved out that time, so we're not going to keep you. I just I want the people watching and listening to know that it's possible for them to have the kind of success that you've enjoyed, and that it doesn't come without work, but it is manageable. It's possible. And I really appreciate you sharing your story and your experience. I think you would agree you don't have to grow up in the bar review to pass the bar exam, but it doesn't hurt. So there you go. Thanks so much. And we're just delighted and, of course, looking forward to seeing you. So we're going to stop the broadcast here, and best of luck to you. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.